Temi was the embodiment of beauty. In her city, her name traveled farther than any rumor, whispered with awe and admiration. Her radiant smile had a way of drawing people in, her glowing skin seemed to shimmer under the softest light. Everywhere she went, heads turned, and hearts followed. Men of all ages, young dreamers, seasoned professionals, and even the wealthiest from far-off places, lined up, each vying for her hand. And why wouldn't they? Temi was the kind of woman who seemed destined for a perfect life, adored by all and envied by many. Yet, for all her beauty and charm, she never said yes. Never chose anyone. Her rejection wasn't cold or cruel, it was mysterious, even puzzling. She'd share moments of laughter and conversations with these men, fleeting connections that lit up their world. But just as quickly, she would pull away, leaving them confused, wondering why someone so captivating refused to let anyone get close. Some thought she was waiting for the right one. Others believed she simply enjoyed the chase, the attention. But those were merely the stories they told themselves. None of them knew the truth. There was something more. Something she carried silently, a weight heavier than any crown of beauty or admiration. Beneath her graceful demeanor and kind smile was a secret, one she guarded fiercely. Only two people in the world, her closest friends Nancy and Kemi, knew the depth of her struggle. And even they couldn't fully understand it. They could never feel the fire that burned within her. Temi's life wasn't as perfect as it seemed. For years, she had fought a battle that no one could see, a battle that shaped every decision she made, every smile she wore, and every suitor she rejected. To the world, she was untouchable, an icon of grace and mystery. But in her quiet moments, alone in the stillness of the night, she often wondered if her secret would one day destroy her completely. Why would someone like Temi, admired and desired by so many, carry such a heavy burden? Why couldn't she say yes to love, to marriage, to the life everyone expected her to have? What was it that kept her from living the life others thought she deserved? If you knew someone like Temi, someone with a secret so heavy it could destroy their future, what would you do? Would you try to help, even if they pushed you away? Would you walk away, or would you stay? What would you do if you were the one carrying that secret? This is Temi's story, a story of beauty, pain, and the weight of a secret that no one was prepared for. A story that will make you question everything you think you know about love, desire, and the human heart. Stay with us. In her city, Temi was a name that echoed through every street, marketplace, and gathering. Stories of her beauty traveled far and wide, drawing men from neighboring villages and even distant cities. Her skin glowed like freshly polished bronze under the sunlight, and her smile was a kind of magic that could disarm even the coldest hearts. She moved with the grace of a queen, her steps light yet purposeful, her presence commanding without effort. The suitors came in droves. Farmers, merchants, scholars, even the city chief's son, all eager to offer her their hearts, their wealth, their lives. They came bearing gifts, fine fabrics, rare gemstones, exotic animals, and promises of undying love. Each one hopeful, each one convinced they might be the one to win her favor. But Temi never said yes. She smiled politely, thanked them for their gestures, and sent them on their way. Some left disappointed but hopeful, convinced they had simply caught her on the wrong day. Others left broken, their hearts crushed by her gentle rejection. Whispers began to swirl through the town. Was she waiting for a prince from a faraway land? Was she cursed to remain alone? Or was there something more? Behind her radiant smile, Temi carried a secret so painful, so consuming, that she dared not share it with anyone but her closest friends. From the age of 15, Temi had felt a fire within her, a restless, burning sensation that refused to be quenched. It started as a strange discomfort, an itch she couldn't scratch. But as the years passed, it grew into something far more powerful, far more unbearable. It wasn't a choice. It wasn't something she wanted. It was something she needed, something her body demanded. To ease the fire, she sought out men. At first, it was one or two, but soon, it became many. By the time she was 25, Temi had lost count. Each encounter brought fleeting relief, but the fire always returned, stronger than before. And with every passing day, the shame grew heavier. Temi hated herself for it. She prayed for strength, for deliverance, but no amount of faith or willpower could extinguish the flames. Every night, she lay in bed, consumed by questions that had no answers. Was she cursed? Was it a punishment from the gods? Or was she simply broken? There were only two people in the world Temi trusted with her secret, Nancy and Kemi, her childhood friends. They had grown up together, shared stories, and weathered life's challenges side by side. Nancy was the strong one, bold and outspoken, always ready to fight for her friends. Kemi was the gentle one, soft-spoken and kind, with a wisdom beyond her years. Together, they were the sisters Temi never had. When Temi could no longer bear the weight of her secret alone, she turned to them. One night, under the cover of darkness, she poured out her heart. She told them everything, the fire, the shame, the countless men. She wept as she spoke, her voice trembling with fear and relief. Nancy was the first to speak. "This doesn't change who you are, Temi," she said firmly. "You're still the same strong, beautiful woman we've always known." Kemi nodded in agreement, her voice gentle but resolute. "We'll find a way to help you. We'll figure this out together." In that moment, Temi felt a glimmer of hope, a faint light in the darkness. But hope is a fragile thing, and trust even more so. While Nancy and Kemi vowed to stand by Temi, cracks began to form beneath the surface. Whispers of doubt crept into their minds. And as Temi's struggles grew more intense, those cracks would widen, threatening to shatter the foundation of their friendship. Temi's secret was safe, for now. But in a town where gossip traveled faster than the wind, secrets had a way of escaping. And when they did, they carried the power to destroy everything in their path. Temi was only 15 when it first started. At the time, she was just like any other girl in her village, bright-eyed and full of dreams, spending her days helping her mother with chores, fetching water from the river, and braiding her friend's hair under the shade of the old baobab tree. Life was simple, life was sweet, until one day, something changed. It began as a faint sensation, a warmth deep in her body that she couldn't quite explain. At first, she thought it was nothing, just a passing feeling, a momentary discomfort. But as days turned into weeks, the warmth grew into a fire, an ache so intense it left her restless, unable to sit still, unable to focus. She tried to ignore it, to push it away. She prayed fervently, asking the ancestors for guidance, but the fire only grew stronger. It wasn't long before she realized that no amount of prayer or distraction could make it go away. Desperate for relief, she turned to the only outlet she knew, attention from boys her age. At first, it seemed harmless, stolen moments, brief encounters that brought temporary calm to the fire within her. But the relief never lasted. The fire always came back, stronger and more insistent, leaving Temi feeling trapped in a cycle she couldn't escape. As the years passed, Temi's desperation grew. By the time she was 18, she knew she couldn't keep living this way. She turned to the elders in her village, hoping their wisdom might hold the answers she sought. The elders offered her herbs and chants, rituals meant to cleanse her spirit, but none of it worked. The fire inside her remained untamed and unyielding. So she sought out doctors in the city, men and women with modern knowledge and tools she didn't understand. But they, too, were baffled. They called it an imbalance, a condition, something they couldn't quite name. And still, the fire burned. She even visited a powerful diviner, a woman known throughout the region for her ability to see beyond the physical world. The diviner examined her, her hands trembling as she whispered, "There's something ancient within you, child. Something older than you, older than me." But even the diviner could not offer a cure, only cryptic warnings that left Temi more confused than before. With every failed attempt at finding answers, Temi's hope faded a little more. She felt like a prisoner in her own body, her secret isolating her from the world she once loved. No one could help her, and no one could truly understand what she was going through. By the time Temi reached 25, the fire within her had grown beyond her control. What had once been an occasional ache was now a relentless force that consumed her every waking moment. She had long since stopped counting the men she had been with, each one a fleeting attempt to douse the flames, and each one leaving her feeling emptier than before. It wasn't just the physical toll, it was the emotional and mental weight that threatened to crush her. Every encounter left her feeling more ashamed, more detached from the person she used to be. She couldn't bear to look her parents in the eye, couldn't bear to face the questions they asked about her future. "When will you marry, Temi?" her mother would ask, her voice full of hope. And Temi would smile weakly, offering the same excuses she'd repeated for years. "I'm not ready yet, Mama." But the truth was far darker. She avoided gatherings, knowing the whispers about her had grown louder. The village was small, and secrets never stayed hidden for long. People began to notice her restlessness, her distance, the way she avoided eye contact. Some speculated she was cursed. Others thought she was simply too proud, too picky to settle down. But no one guessed the truth, not even her closest friends. By now, Temi had resigned herself to a life of quiet suffering. She carried her secret like a stone, its weight growing heavier with each passing year. She wanted to believe that one day, she might find peace, that the fire inside her might finally burn itself out. But deep down, she feared it would only consume her completely. In her home, Temi's beauty was both a blessing and a burden. Her parents, proud of their daughter, often boasted to visitors, "Look at our Temi, the most beautiful woman in the land. Any man would be lucky to marry her." But their pride was tinged with worry. For all her grace and charm, Temi was still unmarried, a fact that weighed heavily on their hearts as the years went by. As she reached her mid-20s, the questions began to intensify. "Temi," her mother would say gently over dinner, "you're so beautiful. Why can't you find a nice man and settle down?" Her father, though less direct, would nod in agreement. "A family is what gives life meaning, my daughter. You cannot stay alone forever." Their words were not harsh, not cruel, they were born out of love and concern. Her parents didn't understand why such a radiant young woman would resist marriage, and Temi couldn't find the courage to tell them the truth. How could she explain the unexplainable? How could she tell them about the fire inside her, the secret that had ruled her life since she was a girl? Temi had become an expert at deflecting their questions. "I'm not ready," she would say with a gentle smile, her voice steady but her heart trembling. "I'm waiting for the right man." Her parents would nod, though her mother's eyes often lingered on her longer than necessary, as if trying to uncover the truth behind her words. The truth was far more complicated than her simple excuses. Temi knew that marriage wasn't an option, not for someone like her. How could she commit to one man when she needed many just to keep the fire inside her at bay? How could she face a husband every day, knowing she could never truly be faithful to him, not because she didn't want to but because she couldn't? She wanted to be honest. She wanted to tell them everything. But every time she opened her mouth to speak, the words caught in her throat. How could she shatter their dreams, their hopes for her future? How could she bear the shame of seeing the disappointment in their eyes? Every time her parents brought up the topic of marriage, Temi felt a pound of guilt deep in her chest. She wanted to make them happy, to give them the joy of seeing her in a white dress, surrounded by family and friends as she exchanged vows with a man who loved her. But in her heart, she knew it was impossible. One man would never be enough for her. No man could satisfy the relentless fire that consumed her every day. Why me? She often wondered late at night. Why was I cursed with this burden? She had no answers, only questions that circled endlessly in her mind, leaving her feeling more alone than ever. The love her parents wanted for her, the love she saw in the lives of others, felt like an unattainable dream. And yet, the pressure only grew. Relatives began to ask questions. Friends of her parents would bring up eligible bachelors at every gathering. Even the village elders, who had once comforted her, began to offer subtle advice. A woman's strength is in her family, they would say. Don't wait too long, Temi. Life doesn't wait for anyone. For Temi, the pressure to marry was like a drumbeat, steady and unrelenting. It followed her wherever she went, a constant reminder of the life she was expected to live but could never truly have. She wanted to believe there was a way out, a way to free herself from the fire within her and the expectations of those she loved. But with every passing day, the weight of her secret grew heavier, threatening to crush her completely. Friendships are often the strongest bonds in life, but even the closest of friends can falter under the weight of secrets. Nancy and Kemi, the only two people who knew Temi's truth, had always vowed to protect her. They promised her their loyalty, their silence. And for years, they kept their word. But loyalty, like trust, can be fragile. It started as a question, a small seed of doubt planted in their minds. What if she's lying to us? Nancy whispered one evening. Why does she even need so many men? Maybe it's not what she says it is. Kemi, ever the gentle one, hesitated at first but couldn't deny that the thought had crossed her mind too. Do you think it's really as uncontrollable as she claims? She asked, her voice soft but probing. At first, the whispers were confined to their private moments, spoken only in hushed tones when they were certain Temi couldn't hear. But as time passed, their doubts grew louder, feeding off one another like embers fanned into flames. In a village as small as theirs, secrets rarely stayed hidden for long. Nancy and Kemi's whispers, once confined to the privacy of their friendship, began to slip out in moments of carelessness. A comment here, a raised eyebrow there, small, seemingly innocent things that carried weight in a place where gossip traveled faster than the wind. Soon, the whispers took on a life of their own. Have you heard about Temi? One woman would ask. They say she's been with almost every man in the village, another would reply. The stories grew more elaborate with each retelling, twisting and stretching until they were almost unrecognizable. But the damage was done. Temi, once the pride of the town, became its cautionary tale. The judgment was swift and merciless. Women who once admired her began to avoid her, their smiles replaced with cold stares. Men who had once sought her attention now spoke of her with mockery, their admiration turned into cruel jokes. Temi's name, once spoken with reverence, became a source of ridicule. For a time, Temi was oblivious to the storm brewing around her. She had grown used to the quiet judgment of the town, mistaking the whispers for the same old gossip she had endured for years. But one evening, As the sun dipped low and the air grew still, she stumbled upon the truth in the most painful way possible. Inside the house, Nancy and Kemi sat together, their voices carrying through the night. "I don't think she's ever going to stop," Nancy said, her tone sharp. "It's like she enjoys it." "How else do you explain it?" Kemi hesitated, her voice quieter but no less damning. "I've been thinking the same thing. Maybe she's not telling us everything. What if she doesn't want to stop?" Temi's heart sank as she listened, each word cutting deeper than the last. The two people she trusted most, the only ones who knew her pain, had turned against her. Their voices, once a source of comfort, now felt like knives twisting in her chest. In that moment, Temi realized she was truly alone. The bond she thought was unbreakable had been shattered, leaving her adrift in a sea of judgment and betrayal. And though she wanted to confront them, to demand answers, she knew the damage was already done. The trust was gone, and with it, the last remnants of her hope. Just when Temi thought her life would remain a never-ending cycle of shame and secrecy, fate introduced her to a man unlike any she had ever known. His name was Adewale, a kind-hearted trader from a neighboring village. Adewale had a warmth about him that disarmed even the most guarded of hearts. He wasn't just handsome. With his tall frame and gentle smile, he carried himself with a quiet confidence, a steadiness that felt like an anchor in a storm. Unlike the others, Adewale wasn't drawn to Temi because of her beauty alone. He admired her for her wit, her intelligence, and the way she carried herself with grace despite the whispers that followed her. Where others saw mystery, Adewale saw depth. Where others questioned, he listened. For the first time in years, Temi felt something she hadn't allowed herself to feel: hope. Adewale didn't press her for answers she wasn't ready to give. He didn't judge her silences or pry into her past. Instead, he simply stayed, offering her the kind of unwavering support she had never known. Months later, after careful courtship and Adewale's persistent yet gentle reassurance, Temi agreed to marry him. The village rejoiced, celebrating the union of two of its finest. For a brief moment, Temi allowed herself to believe that this could be her chance for a new beginning. But as the wedding day approached, her fears returned with a vengeance. The ceremony was everything Temi's parents had dreamed of. Prayers were offered, blessings were given, and the newlyweds danced beneath the glow of 1,000 stars. But as the celebration faded into the quiet of the night, Temi's heart began to race. She knew the moment she had been dreading had arrived. As Adewale reached for her hand, Temi pulled away, her movements hesitant and uncertain. "Is something wrong?" he asked, his voice filled with genuine concern. Temi shook her head, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. But Adewale wasn't convinced. He had sensed for some time that there was a part of her she kept hidden, a part of her she was too afraid to share. Unable to keep her secret any longer, Temi finally broke. Tears streaming down her face, she confessed everything: the fire that burned within her, the countless men she had sought out in a desperate attempt to calm it, and the shame that had haunted her every day of her life. Her words came out in a rush, each one heavy with years of pain and fear. For a long moment, Adewale said nothing. The weight of her revelation hung in the air between them, unspoken yet all-encompassing. Temi couldn't bring herself to look at him, afraid of what she might see in his eyes. But then, softly, he spoke. "Why didn't you tell me before?" His voice wasn't angry, but it carried the unmistakable pain of someone who had just had their world turned upside down. Temi's heart shattered at his words. "I was afraid," she whispered. "Afraid you'd leave. Afraid you'd hate me." She looked up at him, her eyes filled with desperation. "I didn't want to lose you, Adewale. You're the only person who's ever made me feel like I'm more than my curse. In that moment, Adewale faced a choice, one that would define not only their marriage but their futures. Could he love a woman with such a heavy burden? Could he stay, knowing the secret she carried, or would he walk away, leaving her to face her struggles alone? If you were in Adewale's shoes, what would you do? Would you stay and fight for the woman you love, or would you leave, unable to bear the weight of her truth? Let us know in the comments below. In the days following her wedding night, Temi found herself at a crossroads. For years, she had been a prisoner to her condition, chained by the fire within her and the shame it carried. But now, with Adewale's love hanging in the balance, something within her shifted. She could no longer afford to hide, to run, or to pretend. If she wanted to save her marriage, and herself, she had to confront the truth head-on. Temi made a promise to herself that morning, a vow as sacred as the one she had spoken at the altar. She would do whatever it took to understand the fire within her, to find a way to control it, no matter how long or difficult the journey. Temi's search for answers took her far beyond the borders of her village. She visited every doctor, every healer, every wise elder who might hold the key to her mystery. Each encounter brought new questions, new challenges, and glimmers of hope that flickered like fragile flames in the wind. Weeks turned into months, and Temi's journey seemed destined to end in disappointment. But just when she was ready to give up, she heard whispers of a mysterious figure, a healer who was said to have cured ailments no one else could. They called her Mama Ife, an old woman who lived deep in the forest, surrounded by secrets as ancient as the earth itself. Temi found Mama Ife in a small clearing, her hut nestled between towering baobab trees. The healer was a woman of few words, her eyes sharp and knowing. She studied Temi carefully, as if peering into the very depths of her soul. "You carry something powerful," Mama Ife said at last. "Something older than you, older than me. But it does not have to control you." Mama Ife offered Temi a choice: undergo a ritual that would test her spirit, her body, and her will, or continue to live as she always had, bound by her condition. The ritual, Mama Ife warned, was not without risk. It would demand everything Temi had, and even then, it might fail. The days leading up to the ritual were filled with preparation and uncertainty. Temi followed Mama Ife's instructions to the letter, fasting, meditating, and reflecting on the choices that had brought her to this point. The fire within her burned as fiercely as ever, but for the first time, she felt a spark of control, a faint but steady flame of hope. While Temi embarked on her journey of self-discovery, Adewale was left behind to wrestle with his own demons. He had married Temi out of love, but her revelation had shaken him to his core. He spent sleepless nights replaying their conversations, trying to make sense of the secret she had carried for so long. Can I truly help her, he wondered. Or will I lose myself trying? The villagers, never once to shy away from gossip, offered their unsolicited opinions. Leave her, some said. A man like you deserves better. But others urged him to stay. True love isn't easy, an elder told him. If you walk away now, you may regret it for the rest of your life. Adewale's heart was torn between two paths. On one hand, he feared that staying with Temi would mean a lifetime of pain and uncertainty. On the other, he couldn't ignore the love he felt for her, a love that had drawn him to her long before he knew of her struggles. As the days turned into weeks, Adewale made his decision. He packed a small bag and set out to find Temi, determined to stand by her side no matter what challenges lay ahead. She's my wife, he said quietly to himself. And I promise to love her in all things. Temi's journey toward redemption was far from over, and the road ahead was uncertain. But with Adewale by her side and a glimmer of hope lighting her way, she took her first steps toward reclaiming her life and taming the fire that had once consumed her. Would the ritual succeed? Could she finally find peace? Only time would tell. The night of the ritual arrived, and the air was thick with anticipation. Temi sat cross-legged in the center of Mama Ife's hut, surrounded by flickering candles and the faint scent of herbs burning in a clay pot. Mama Ife's chants grew louder, her voice weaving through the room like an ancient song carried on the wind. Temi closed her eyes, her mind swelling with fear and hope in equal measure. As the ritual reached its peak, Mama Ife suddenly stopped. Her hands froze mid-motion, her eyes wide as if she had seen something only she could comprehend. The silence was deafening, broken only by the crackle of the fire in the corner. "Temi," Mama Ife said slowly, her voice trembling. "This is not a curse." Mama Ife explained that the fire within Temi wasn't a punishment or a sickness, it was something far older, something deeply tied to her lineage. "Your ancestors carried a gift," Mama Ife continued, her voice heavy with meaning. "A power that burns bright, but only in the chosen few. You are one of them." The revelation hit Temi like a tidal wave. Her condition, the fire that had caused her so much pain and shame, was not a curse after all. It was a gift, a powerful, ancient energy passed down through generations. But with that gift came responsibility. "You must learn to control it," Mama Ife warned. "If you let it consume you, it will destroy everything you hold dear." Temi left the forest a different woman. Armed with the truth about her ancestry, she returned to her village ready to confront her life with a renewed sense of purpose. But the path ahead was still uncertain. Could she truly learn to control the fire within her? And more importantly, could she rebuild the trust she had lost, with her husband, her friends, and herself? As Temi stepped into the village square, the whispers started again. The villagers stared, their eyes filled with curiosity and suspicion. But this time, Temi didn't flinch. She held her head high, her heart beating with a mixture of fear and resolve. For the first time in years, she felt a spark of hope, not just for herself, but for the future she was determined to build. What do you think happened next? Could Temi truly embrace the power of her ancestry, or would it continue to haunt her? And what about Adewale? Could you forgive someone with a secret this big? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories that make you question what you thought you knew. Temi's journey has been one of immense struggle, heartbreak, and resilience. From the fire within her that she couldn't control, to the whispers that eroded her trust in those closest to her, she faced battles that would have broken many. Betrayed by her friends, judged by her community, and nearly consumed by her secret, Temi fought to reclaim her life. Through it all, she found strength in the most unlikely of places, her resolve to face her truth, her husband's steadfast love, and the ancient legacy she discovered in the depths of the forest. Temi's story is not just about overcoming pain, it's about finding meaning in the struggles that define us. But Temi's story is not yet over, and her future remains uncertain. What would you do if you were in her position? Could you summon the strength to confront your deepest fears and fight for redemption? And if you were Adewale, would you stand by the one you love, even when the weight of their truth threatens to overwhelm you? We want to hear your thoughts. Share your answers in the comments below, and tell us, how would you navigate such a challenging journey? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more dramatic and thought-provoking stories inspired by the rich tapestry of African life and culture. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time with another story that will make you question, reflect, and grow.